The Pittsburgh Penguins to start out this season are an unmitigated disaster. Through 10 games, the Penguins are bottom 5 in the NHL with a 3-6-1 record. The sky has been falling for the Penguins for a couple of seasons now, but this has been rock bottom. But just how bad have the Penguins been so far? Is this a season that can be resurrected? Will we see major changes in the coaching staff? And what has gone wrong for this Penguins team so far? Well, make sure you watch till the end because we're going to be breaking down everything right here. And hit that subscribe button, of course, if you're new for more hockey content just like this all year, presented by BetUS. Now, looking back at my standings predictions for the year, it wasn't a surprise to see the Penguins not start off all too well. I had them 7th in the Metro Division behind Columbus with 78 points by the end of the year. But geez, man, I didn't expect it to be this apocalyptic of a start. Not only are they bottom 5, but they've also had so much controversy so far. Not only have we heard so much about a potential Mike Sullivan firing, we've also seen criticism and controversy around Crosby and people calling for him to be benched. We've seen so much around Carlson, so much around the goaltending situation for Pittsburgh. I mean, everything that could go wrong so far seemingly has. Really, the only success stories have been again Malkin so far, who has looked prolific offensively. Lars has also had his moments, I would say. And on the goaltending side, Joel Blomqvist, man, if he was not there, Pittsburgh will be in an even worse spot. But you look at the rest of the lineup, and you got Sidney Crosby, who only has 7 points in 10 games, only 1 goal, a -7. You look at Carlson, who is right now, again, the worst version of himself. You have 6 points in 10 games and also a pretty crazy minus. But you also got players that were pretty huge for Pittsburgh last year, like Marcus Pettersson, who haven't been on that same level. Plus minus is a flawed stat, but you look at just the team defensively, and it is a tire fire. There's only 2 players right now on this entire Penguins team who are a plus in any direction, and that's Anthony Beauvillier and Rickard Rakell. But to give you guys an idea of just how bad the defense has been for this Penguins team, after all of these 10 games, every single one of them, the Penguins have not had a game where they've let the other team score less than 3 goals. You look at every single game up to this point, you allow 6 goals to the Rangers in your first game of the season, get shut out. Then you allow 3 to the Red Wings, 4 to the Leafs, 3 to the Canadiens, 5 to the Sabres, 4 to the Hurricanes, 6 to the Jets, 4 to the Flames, 4 to the Oilers, and then in this last game, 4 against the Canucks to lose by 1 goal. And that all culminates in the Penguins having the most goals allowed in the NHL up to this point, even more than the Philadelphia Flyers, who have also been pretty historically bad. They've allowed 40 goals, but even in their 9 games, they at least have 1 game where they played against the Canucks where they allowed 2 goals. At least they had 1 where they allowed less than 3. The Penguins can't even say that. But just look at where they're at in the league. You have teams like the Anaheim Ducks, the Columbus Blue Jackets, who have a better points percentage than the Pittsburgh Penguins do right now. Right now, in terms of point percentage, they are 4th last in the NHL. The only teams behind them are Chicago, Philly, and San Jose. Not the position you want to be in. It's good for the James Higgins tank, but not good for anything else, and certainly not good for those veterans that wanted to be on a contending team. But you look at this Penguins team, and they've taken major steps back almost every single year since 2022. You can see back in that season, they actually had a pretty good rate at a 2.29, but now you fast forward to today, and obviously it's early season, but right now it's 3.56, a major difference in the style, the play, and the effort out there for this Penguins franchise. And unfortunately for the Penguins, the goaltending hasn't fared much better. You have Tristan Jarry, who right now in 3 games has an .836 save percentage, and recently was sent down to the AHL on a conditioning loan, meaning he's not good enough to be on the NHL club, and we need him somewhere else. Nedeljkovic also hasn't been much better with an .874 save percentage in 3 games. Thankfully, Joel Blomqvist, one of the best goaltending prospects in the NHL, has completely saved them from being in the absolute dumpster. So far in 5 games, he's been pretty terrific, getting a .911 save percentage and looking as solid as a rookie against this Penguins defense possibly can. Now, we got a lot more to talk about, especially concerning the Penguins' future right now. But first, I want to talk about today's sponsor in BetUS. If you guys haven't signed up yet, use code YouTube150, and you'll get an 150% incentive bonus on your first deposit and 125% incentive bonus on your next 2 deposits there. But it's the best place to make any NHL picks during the season. Right now, for today's games, we got a couple interesting options. I think the Jets are going to continue their winning ways this year, and we'll see how that works out. But I also like the Lightning at over 3.5 goals. They've been unreal offensively to start out the year against the Predators. I like the chances there. Just going to put $5 down to win 13, and we'll see how it goes. But if you guys want to make your own picks on the NHL, BetUS is the place to be. And thank you so much, BetUS, for sponsoring today's video. Joel Blomqvist is obviously trying his best, but as a rookie goaltender, no matter how good he can be at this stage, he is not going to make up for how horrid this Penguins system is and how badly they need change right now. There were a lot of things that needed to go right for the Penguins to be back in the playoff conversation. You still needed Crosby, Malkin, Letang, all those three guys to be brilliant. You needed Erik Karlsson to have a rebound here, Tristan Jarry to have the best season that he's had in a while. You needed so much to go right, yet so little has. Erik Karlsson, for one, has completely missed the rebound season boats. As Jesse Marshall talks about, the effect of poor play from Erik Karlsson is not only creating a disaster defensively, it's preventing the top line from creating offense as well, making them have to play more defense by proxy. An interesting tweet here from Topher Scott saying, if your best players are bought in and are your hardest workers, you've given yourself a chance to win a championship. Watching this from Erik Karlsson, it's no surprise Pittsburgh isn't winning, or San Jose the last 4 years he was there. And he includes the pretty infamous clip already in this Penguins Canucks game that you guys just need to see. It was genuinely embarrassing, Karlsson's attempt to defend JT Miller on this rush. I mean, what is he doing there? You can see Miller is pretty easily just able to drive the net. Karlsson bounces off him like he's jello, and Miller is able to go right in and create the physical pressure. And as he's just kind of standing there, Karlsson just falls down on his skates. I mean, come on, man. It's like Erik Karlsson is in one of those video games that has ragdoll physics and he's just getting bounced around with every point of contact. Maybe that's what's going on here. And this is what angered me the most out of anything. Recently, Josh Yohe of The Athletic put out a whole article that just went into everything about the Penguins. And in the quotes that he had with Karlsson, we apparently had Karlsson saying that he was playing great. And Josh Yohe questioned him again about that, and Erik Karlsson reiterated that. He confirmed again that he thinks he's playing great. It's not a joke. He thinks he's actually playing great for this Penguins team. Are you the player we're watching on the ice? Are you sure you're the player we're watching on the ice, EK? Because as much as Karlsson can be a solid player offensively, I think a big theme in his time with Pittsburgh is that the defensive level that he's had has not made up for the issues and the consistent woes that Karlsson has had defensively. And there will be times on overtimes where he can become this revolutionary player, but it's never going to be worth just how insanely bad this guy has been defensively at so many points for the last couple of seasons. So many times where any other NHLer would be able to establish pressure, establish a physical connection, able to get the puck out of a guy just kind of skating towards him. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's not something that's asking for too much. Almost every single other NHL defenseman is able to do what Erik Karlsson can, and at some point, it just kind of becomes annoying. But the problems haven't just been Erik Karlsson, and this is something that I think has been a continuing story over the past few seasons. I would say since that really 2022 season, there has been a pretty sharp decline in Sidney Crosby's defense, and obviously the reputation that Crosby has is to be this great two-way player, but I don't think that's really been the case for a while, especially these last two seasons specifically. Crosby has pretty obviously been sacrificing defense to try to lead the Penguins to more offensive levels, and that's been something that has been just getting more and more exaggerated as each season happens. And this season has been no exception to this. As Mika Blake McCurdy points out, the defensive problems in Pittsburgh are especially concerning when you see how concentrated they are in Crosby's minutes particularly, mostly of Russ and Beauvillier. Now you can see the defense without Crosby and the defense with Crosby. You don't want to have more red. You don't want to have more plus. And you can see without Crosby, the Penguins are still not great defensively with a +7. But with Crosby on the ice in 154 minutes, they're +60. Look at how much pressure is there around his own net. And that's been a symptom of Crosby's play recently. There has been a lot of times where he's been sacrificing offense for defense. He isn't this Selke Trophy winner anymore, or somebody on that level that can be this great two-way force. That's just not the player that Crosby is anymore, and he's not as focused on being that player anymore either. But here's the weird thing to me, because so far this year, I think the biggest issue with Crosby, and honestly some of the top-end players in Pittsburgh in general, have just been the lack of buying in, the lack of confidence in the coaching staff and the team in general. But I think Sidney Crosby especially is the one really being the worst off because of it. When you watch Crosby this season, and this is something that I've picked up on, it just feels like he's done with Mike Sullivan. It feels like he's done with this coaching staff. It feels like he is just not really there, which is a rare thing for Sidney Crosby to be. He's almost always the leader, almost always the one putting in the most effort. But so far this year, I just don't think that's been the case. It's gotten so bad that we've seen people calling for Sidney Crosby to be benched. We have this tweet from Hannah Kirkle saying this will not be a popular take, but the Penguins head coach needs to be the one that will bench the players who are playing poorly, even the legends. Crosby's effort has been subpar all season, save for the milestone game against Buffalo. Tonight is no different. They go on to say if he's unhappy, that's fine, but this play isn't leadership, and he chose to sign his extension. Benching him sends a message to the team. Now, I would not agree with benching Crosby personally, but that just shows the level that Crosby has been up to this point and just the lack of effort that has been there. But I think that's on Mike Sullivan, that's on the coaching staff, that's on the state of this franchise, that Sidney Crosby is giving up on you. One of the players who will be as loyal as humanly possible is giving up on you, and that should get everybody fired, honestly. We have this tweet from Kelsey, who covers the Penguins for the Hockey News, saying it's early, there's a lot of season left, and surely he'll turn it around. But folks, we need to talk about Sidney Crosby. I take a deep dive into the numbers here. Let me tell you, they're worse than they seem. So not just other people are talking about Crosby, writers that are covering Pittsburgh are also noticing just how weird and uncomfortable this Crosby situation has been. And they go into the situation and go into his stats per money puck, and let me tell you, they're not pretty. He's tied for 9th in expected goals, 11th in expected goals per 60 minutes, tied 12th in unblocked high danger shot attempts, and you can just go down the list, 4th in giveaways, 5th in defensive zone giveaways. Just things that Sidney Crosby doesn't normally do are happening this season. Even though he's had, I think, a pretty sharp decline in his defensive ability, this is on a different level. And there was this clip in the Jets game a few days back that also got a lot of attention, where it was a 4-on-4 tied 2-2 between the Penguins and the Jets, a minute left in the second, high stakes situation, especially with the period coming to a close against a great team with the Jets. And you can see Sidney Crosby here on the left as the puck gets back into the neutral zone. He tries to get it out, loses the puck, and then once he loses it, just kind of coasts to the bench, and right the other way come the Jets, and a pretty good scoring chance there. Carlson, of course, defending, so it's automatically not great news. Maybe Crosby thought it was going to be better, and the start of the season just hasn't, but I mean, look around you. The Penguins had warning signs for so long that I'm not surprised they're having this start. I saw them being a pretty bad team, and they're a pretty bad team. Whoop-de-doo. I'm honestly pretty shocked a coaching change hasn't already happened, but just look at the roster that Mike Sullivan has to deal with. I mean, you've got Anthony Beauvillier on the second line, who's scored a couple of goals here and there and has looked better, but it's Anthony Beauvillier. This is somebody that should be on your fourth line, and even on a fourth line for some teams might not even be in that position. But you look at just the rest of the roster, and what has Michael Bunting been this year? Brian Russ has been horrible. I mean, you were expecting seasons out of Crosby and Malkin that need to be unbelievable, and only Malkin has been able to do that. You just look at all the depth, and it's almost all been disappointing. And then defensively, it's a tire fire. Carlson has been his worst version. Chris Letang, I mean, God forbid his soul, but he's not that type of player anymore that can be able to replicate the seasons he had 10 years ago. Marcus Pettersson has taken a step back. Matt Grzelcyk was always, I thought, a depth addition, but now he's having to play top 4 minutes. Same thing with Ryan Graves, and we've seen how horrible that contract has aged. And you look at the goaltending. Now you have a situation where Tristan Jarry is sent down to the AHL, and you have this rookie goaltender in Joel Blomqvist who is having to carry this team to anything at all. And it's just sad to watch. Sure, they've had some injuries. Blake Lizotte on the IR, Cody Glass day-to-day, but what difference is Blake Lizotte gonna make? I like him, I like his speed, but let's be real. Even with everybody healthy, this team still needed to be more than the sum of its parts to actually be a playoff team. They needed everybody to buy in. They needed the coaching to be absolutely elite, Mike Sullivan to get the rock back in this team, and they needed something special. They needed vibes, they needed a luck, and a lot of it, and the luck hasn't been there. Everybody is bought out of this system, and Mike Sullivan looks to be on his way out. As Annie OD says, Mike Sullivan is 1,000% going to be the first head coach to be fired this season, and I hope that this is the case. I am a big Mike Sullivan fan. I think he's a great coach, but I think the writing has been on the wall for him and his position with the Penguins for a while now. They just continually got worse and worse, and I think he is much better suited in a different situation. As the U.S. put him as their head coach for the Four Nations, obviously other people know how good of a coach Mike Sullivan can be, but every coach has an expiration date, and that is something that has continually happened year after year. Really, John Cooper and Mike Sullivan have been the only coaches that have been able to stick with their teams for this long now. The Penguins so obviously need a change of perspective. They need new blood in that coaching staff. It's simply obvious to see. And I think with what we've seen out of the Penguins' demeanor, out of what we've seen out of the body language of players like Crosby, they're just not bought in. They're done with the system. They're done with what has been over the last, 8 seasons now. And it's time to make a change. All coaches end up needing a change at some point, and I think in Sullivan's case, the time is now. The Penguins especially aren't one of those teams that can afford to have another bad month. If they continue on this road, they're done. It's the Eastern Conference. It's those wild card spots that are going to be so unbelievably hard to come by. You look at the Atlantic Division, it is a bloodbath right now with so many teams battling for every single point, and I already think the Penguins are done because I thought they were done to start the season. I didn't think they were going to be a playoff team, but this just makes it even worse for them and gives them even worse odds to make the playoffs. They need to make a change before it is way too late. It's already too late, but you get what I mean. But it really has been just a team in decline, and the cap structure ain't looking too pretty either. You got players like Brian Rust, who are in a weird stage of their careers, making $5.1 million. Hard Raquel at $5 million. You look at the defense, and Erik Karlsson making 10 is just ludicrous still. You have also players like Ryan Graves, who have been horrible in their contracts, making $4.5 million. You got also, of course, the big one in Tristan Jarry, who's making $5.375 for the next 3 seasons after this. And man, it is a tough spot for the Penguins to be in. It's not an easy team to manage, I'm sure, for Kyle Dubas, but man, they need something different. And if you want to get something different, the coaching staff and the coaching changes will need to come soon. But hey, at least that's my opinion. I want to know your thoughts down below on this Penguins team and what you think about their future, because right now it is all over the place. But let me know, are they still a playoff team to you? Do you think if they make a coaching change, will they get back to the playoffs, or do you think they are done with this current group? Do you think it's going to get any better than this? I would love to know your thoughts down below. And of course, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and notification bell for more breakdowns just like this. And of course, share it with all the hockey fans, all the Penguins fans you guys know online, and click on this card for all of my trade rumor content right in one playlist. Thank you guys for watching, and of course, make sure you sign up to BetUS using code YouTube150, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great hockey day, y'all, and goodbye.